You probably recognize Olaf. I think it was it Frozen?
Yes.
The movie Frozen? Yeah, well, we saw a couple pictures and so my wife printed me out a picture and I took it down to the shop and I did one, and a couple days later I brought it back up. The arms and the hair are from a wreath I found at Hobby Lobby. And I just cut the extra pieces off and stuck them in there. And I took it upstairs and I said, this is for the Christmas ornament swap. And she says, no, it's not. She said, it's for me. She said, if you want to do fun for the Christmas ornament swap, that's your business. So then I had to turn around, go back down the basement and do another one. This is the other one. So anyway, we got two of them. And that belongs to you now.
This is the first I've ever turned a Christmas ornament. Woo. And this was in a wood magazine years ago, and I tore it out and I picked that out to make it. This top is just...
Olaf's pretty rugged.
I'll give this to my wife before I... And you start out with a block about 4 inches long, and you drill 2 inches in on one end, and you put a piece of, I used walnut, and glue it in there. And then this block was 1 3/4 square, about 3.5 inches long. And I drilled all the holes in there, and then I did the Christmas tree on a piece of walnut, painted it, and then glued it in, and then I turned the whole object on the lathe like that.
Wow.
This is ornamentally turned ornament done on a rose engine, made out of cherry. The finials are easy to do. You can sand down. The ornamental turning doesn't get sanded. So what you see there is the actual cuts with no sand, and it's just finished with walnut oil.
Great. Jeff, you have a rose engine. Really? Where do you live?
Not far from Star Lake. I'm going to have maybe a get together in February.
Wow.
Okay, well this is a little bit of carving, a little bit of turning. Carved a little Santa Claus there. I titled this The Day After. Santa Claus has his gouge there ready to go turning. And to hang it, of course I put an eye on the top, and I made a wooden skew. However, it comes with a Thompson skew on one end, detail gouge on the other.
Wow. Boy, I like that.
And a white oak burl display stand.
Now I know
Merry
what Mom
Christmas,
was getting
Jeff.
for Christmas. Thank you.
Wow, very nice.
Also, there's some wrapping stuff in there with rubber bands, and it also comes with a Thompson tool bag.
I got to watch you put it
Okay,
in.
good.
It's made with apple. The inside of it is white gesso. It's dark red leather dye on the outside of it. It's not, it's sort of POS because it's not even with the staves coming down the side. It sort of is what it is.
It is a Tim original though.
Yeah.
This is made out of solid walnut. It started out just to be a bell. And of course, then we carved, we'll call them leaves, because if you turned it upside down and you ignore the little bell and think these are roots, it's actually an amaryllis bulb in a bloom. But I had some help from the florist who's in charge. But that's what it turned out to be.
Very nice.
I don't know, I saw birdhouses in the past here, and I bought a book from Dale Nish on birdhouses, and he had all kinds of different designs, and I think that's what would intrigue me. This is, the top is made from rosewood, and the bottom is made from rosewood. And then the middle was walnut, and I think maple. I made the middle some time ago, but I just finished the top and finished, but I just kind of thought it was cute.
Yeah, the snowman here is made out of the engineered wood. I did the body one way and the head the other way. I did hollow it out so it's a little bit lighter. And the eyes are garnets, the buttons are fluorite, and they use sort of an alcohol type paint for the hat to try to decorate it a little bit. So,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Traditional, I would say traditional in the sense of inside-outside ornament. Bill Hayes was the inspiration, his little instructions on Christmas ornaments. It's made out of locust wood from California, and it's got a Swarovski crystal in it, and it's basically just turned and finished with triple E and shell wax.
Okay. I was trying to carry on with my penguin ideas, so I came up with an igloo. Sorry. I came up with an igloo this year. It's all maple. It is a split turning. I wood burned it. I don't know how many coats of white I put on it. This is plexiglass. And this was a real pain in the ass to make. It's not really hollowed on the bottom, but I'll leave that to any of you guys to figure out how to hollow that out. But I did hollow out the entrance. So, Merry Christmas. Thank you.
All right, I'm a rookie at this still, and for lathe, I just have a pen mandrel, so I turned this on a pen mandrel. I wanted to hollow at the bottom, so just use a Forstner bit to get in, to make it look like a bell, but it's a piece of bobinga, and next year I'll do better and try to make something look like the rest of this fine.
You did great, Tom.
You did very nice.
Thank you.
This piece is made in two pieces. I started off with a round cylinder that I turned from a piece of the manufactured laminated wood that we have in here. And I parted off two identical pieces, jam chucked it, and then I took a biscuit joiner and then I cut the radial slots in the face of each of the pieces. Took the piece off, turned it around, and then cut the concentric pieces. Then just glued the two halves together with the little sparkly paper in there that was just cut with a skew. And it was dyed, and it has a lacquer finish.
So you put the paper in and then turned it with the skew?
No. The paper, I took a piece of, you can get this paper at the craft store. Just put a piece of double stick tape on it, put it on a mandrel, and then just take your skew chisel and just cut a circle.
Okay.
And then you can cut a ring.
Yeah, all right.
And while you have the two pieces apart, you put a piece on either side,
Yeah.
glue them together.
Innovative.
Probably coming up with the jigs and all the jam chucking pieces and all was more time than actually creating the piece itself. So, very nice. Thank you.
Wow, very nice.
There it is.
Go ahead. Well, this is an inside-out turning. On my way over to my shop in Braddock, I went through Rankin and saw a church that had a spire like this, Eastern Ukrainian or something like that, Orthodox church. And so I thought, that's pretty cool. I think I'm going to try to do something like that. So it started out where this was the top, and I had to make a command decision that I want this one. But after I did the inside, I spray painted it with black lacquer, then turned all the sticks around, glued it back together again, and turned the outside shape. Did some pyrography work, and then a little bit of painting colors just to set off the pyrography in a Christmas theme. I shaved the corners of the pieces as I was gluing them together with a plane, and it made a passageway for a twisted wire running through the center because I wanted to hang it, and I put a Swarovski crystal in the middle. Clear coated it all with lacquer. The paint is artist oils with lacquer mixed in. So that's a process.
Wow.
So,
Well, mine is not that complicated. I like several different kinds of wood put together, and that's what I did. Louder?
Yes.
Okay. So I like putting different types of wood together. So I used, the center ball is holly, and I used leopard wood, purple heart, red heart, and walnut in it. The finial on the top piece was just an ebony pen blank that I had. And by the way, this is all friction fit together. It's not glued.
oh, really?
Except for the plugs are glued, of course, but the rest of it, so if it starts to come apart if your house is dry, it actually fits pretty tight. So it's a pretty tight fit. So, and I guess you can put stuff in the center if you want because it's hollowed out. So other than that, and I had some new beading tools I wanted to try out, that's why I put the beads on it. And it actually was turned upside down to begin with, and I turned it over just like yours. A lot of on-the-lathe modifications as I went along.
It's funny how the final product changes
Yeah, you never know
as
what
you
you're
go
gonna
through
get.
it. Right. So,
Real simple. It's just a beehive. It's the symbol of Utah State, the Beehive State. So I thought I'd make me one. And I have no idea what kind of wood it is, and this is some other kind of wood. Grows on trees, right? And a little dowel stuck in. This part is hollowed and is a recess, and this part has a spigot that fits into the recess. Easy as that.
Piece of tamarind.
Tamarind?
Tamarind. And the color is all acrylic paint.
Wow. How'd you get it to do all these swirly things?
It's a grain.
Wow. Tamarind's pretty fancy stuff.
Thank you.
Christmas ornament that I've done. This was not what I planned to do, as I think sort of everybody talks about. Initially, I started with an inside-out turning using a piece of Paduke that I had, and it blew up on me because I didn't do the glue up right. So this ended up being, this is a piece of Formigo or Orange Agate, or there's a dozen names for the same wood. And then, I'm not really sure what this was. This was just sort of a nice contrasting wood that was hanging around my my workshop. So
That's the other half of Annie's under work.
yeah.
This is about the third thing I've turned. So it's maple snowman. I was just looking for something that was kind of in my ballpark to make, and I found a guy on YouTube that had made one that was a little bit different. So I put my own little touch on it, made them a little longer, and then the hat is some kind of pressed green and red wood, but I figured it would be festive. So.
No, you're first.
Okay. Going off of Graham Priddle's class and that with some embellishment and burning and so on, I took a piece of cherry, and I know it's fairly large, but I wanted to try and make a fairly good-sized tree in there. So I carved this out, it's all down a bit, and then I left the top part of the tree raised up, and I burnt it in, and then just painted it, and with some Christmas gifts at the bottom. So.
Looking good. This is some of that free wood that we can gather up outside the door here. The gentleman brings in all the time. I appreciate that. It's an inside-out turning, and the original design was I was going to make a bell bigger than what the opening is. When I got the 4 pieces glued up and started to put together, and I said I forgot to put the bell in. So the bell isn't bigger, it's smaller. And just a stand for it.
Saw on the internet a scene inside of a bell, and I thought, well, I would like to put something inside of a ball. So this is a cherry hollow form with a natural edge. And then I decorated the outside with decorating elf, and then burned a couple of ridges and then painted it with bronze. Then on the inside, the scene is called Zoo Christmas. So there's a hippo, a giraffe, and a zebra, and then the Christmas trees are birch and red maple, and then there's an owl in one of the Christmas trees. And then it was kind of a family affair. Last night, pulling it all together, Kelsey donated and painted the snow with some nail polish, and Gina had these little figures from Korea, and yeah, it all came together somehow.
Tell us how you turned the hippo.
That was the hard part.
You got it for Christmas.
So what I did in last month, as Maurice said, we took a class with Graham Priddle, and we made little boats and other things. So I made this cherry boat that's hollowed out, and then the sail is out of curly maple, and I carved the sail, and it looks like ripples in the wind with the sail, and then I burned a little embellishment on it, and then I also burned inside the hollow thing there, and then around it. Cool. So.
Okay. This is the first piece that I've turned other than making one pen at Rockler and at Woodcraft. So this is my first piece circle it on your calendar.
A couple of years ago.
It's a piece of engineered wood that I turned. It wasn't supposed to have this, but I caught my gouge, and I told my husband, I said, I kind of like
Nice
that there.
design choice.
Yeah. And then I finished it with the friction polish.
This is bell number 2. The first one is in 2 pieces. I was planning on embellishing it with some pyrography because it was more of a plain piece of maple, and this one has some nice figure to it, so I left it plain. Has a bloodwood clapper inside.
Oh, that's great.
So that's it.
This is a piece of basswood that's turned on eccentric centers or multi-centers. I'm sorry, it's a piece of basswood turned on multi-centers or eccentric centers. Three centers, they're just a little off to make these cuts. And the wreath, then I just put some green, magic marker to color it. And then the wreath here is to cover up a mistake.
Okay, this is another inside-outside ornament. Started out as an experiment because this is basically burl from a South Carolina water oak, they call it, and it's somewhat punky. I've had a bunch of them explode on me. But nevertheless, this one turned out pretty well, so that's why it's here, because I liked how it came out. And it's just burl with a shell and wax finish. That's all it is, inside, outside.
Very
There you
nice.
go.
I made this bell out of some maple that a neighbor of ours had a tree cut down and was telling me about it at the Y, and I said, oh, could I have a piece of it? And she gave me this look like, what are you going to do with it? I said, well, I'm a wood turner. And so I went over there, her house, my wife and I, we stayed for a little while, picked up the wood. I took the bark off, split it, cut it, dried it. And this is one of the many pieces I was able to make from that salvaged wood. So this is, you know, wood does, you know, our supply does grow on trees. So the clapper inside is held with copper wire. I had many years ago in remodeling my house, bought a 250-foot roll of copper wire. So I have plenty of that. And I finished it with walnut oil. And that's just right on the lathe. And this happened to be the best one of a few that I made.
Oh, good.
Your turn.
Okay. This started out when my wife came home from working the elections with this little piece of cardboard tube about this long. She said, see if you can make something out of this. Okay, so I studied on that one for a while. And this is the result of that. I cut it in half, and I glued stained glass stringers around it. That's what all this is stained glass. So this is, if you drop this, it's going to break.
Okay.
Top and the bottom, mystery wood. I have no idea, but it's finished with friction polish. And the little loop I make out of brass wire.
Oh.
So that's it. I actually had to make 4 of them. So I had to, I don't know if this one has a paper center or a wood center, because I had to make 4. I can only had enough paper center for 2. So I had to make a couple cylinders to make 2 more. So there you go. That's all there is to it.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I'm the last letter in the alphabet. You go.
Made this out of maple and mahogany. Bill Hayes told me a thing about turning with mahogany, because I told him I had to do this a few times. And he said, well, first of all, you have to have a sharp tool. And secondly, you have to have some patience. I don't have either one of those, so. But anyway, this is made out of mahogany, and this is maple. And God made this. This is a sea urchin in the middle. And I didn't have anything to do with that other than I picked it out of the sand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I was going to ask you how to get the little knots on there.
God handled
I
it.
did that. Well, I'm the last letter, next to the last letter in the alphabet, and I was always the last seat in the damn last row of all my schools. Last year was the last one picked here, right? So I'm in a trend here. So this is 4 different kinds of wood. I don't know what they are. I blew this glass bead in my kitchen stove. It took a long time to do that, so that's hand-blown glass there. This is cut out of a solid block of 14 karat gold that I milled on a milling machine.
God, this is an expensive thing.
Well, I lied because I wanted to make it interesting, so there you are. But that is glass bead, that is Chinese gold screwed in. Purple heart, white bamboo on the bottom. This wood I'm not too sure about it, but it's crummy wood. This one's nice wood here. I don't remember that either. But it came from a tree. And I like the design on the wood pattern. It's pretty neat little. So there you are.
Good enough. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just another piece of, I think it's myrtle. I always liked basic design, so I didn't embellish it in any way. And that's it.
What's the wood?
Myrtle.
Myrtle.
I think. You buy stuff and then you can't remember what it was when you go to turn it.
So I made a 3-pointed box with a nice lid, maple lid. This is walnut and maple. And then the original top I had a superb fit. It just snapped right in, but because it was so tight fitting in, I had to make it big, and I just didn't like it so much. So I ended up turning another little tri-pointed box that I put on the top, another different piece of maple on there. So you can actually use this as a little bowl here, and then there you go.
Very nice.
Yeah, whatever, go ahead. All right. Some of you might have seen that bowl I made out of colored pencils. Well, I had some left over. I couldn't stand it, so I said, well, I'll do something. So I took this bunch of these colored pencils and I wrapped them around a piece of 2-inch PVC to form the circle. And you can see they're colored pencils. I didn't want to turn the outside. My first attempt I tried using resin. Well, that's a mess. So it literally is a pencil box on my workbench, so I can stick pencils. It's ugly. So I turned a walnut top and bottom, I glued the whole thing together, and there you go. It's just that simple. And there's 2 layers of pencils in there, all just type-on glue. That's it.
Well, I wanted to do a Penn's cup. The first one is sitting out there. It's only about 4 inches tall. That was the first. This is the third. I had suspected you could turn a Penn's cup, but I wanted, with me, it is about proportion. And I could talk about proportion in February. So this is actually to scale. It took me 15 hours to do. So everything had to be measured out and scaled. It is partially carved. This is maple, as I left out the bottom and left the inside finished. It is drilled out and finished, but the bottom is not. Like I said, this. If you really want to test your patience, try turning one. Really want to try testing it. But it is a fun project because at least putting all the grooves in and all the cuts, the real difficult cut that I really didn't think I had the tool for was getting right in here. Getting that cove to work. And I partially did it with probably the smallest parting tool I had, which was Bill's parting tool, and one of Cindy Drose's really pointed spittle gouges. And that was probably the scariest part of ever doing this. So, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Can I get you up back in?
Okay, I know what this is because I wrote it down. It's called Mora and Sapele. Mora is the dark bottom and Sapele is the top. This I carved out of a solid piece of brass.
You're selling the rock, right?
Why are they laughing?
They always laugh at me. And there's the old glass bead in there I blew on my kitchen stove again. Let's see. This is a 2-stage project here. Pot pourri. I smoked the pot though, so I had to put potpourri back in there. And then you can put it like this, and the lid fits like that, and you have a decoration on top, or you can take this off, put this back on the top of the lid, and there you are. That's it.
A lot of planning there.
Yeah, it was a lot of planning. Especially carving this out of solid brass, I'm gonna tell you.
I'm gonna put that back in there so I can remember. Mine started out of a solid piece of maple. And of course, maple does not come green and red, so there's a little paint thrown in the meantime. The bottom of it is one piece, turned, drilled little holes that I can't even begin to tell you what diameter they are, they're so small. But by the time I got it strung, I was looking for a magnifying glass. The top, another piece of maple, and yes, I did turn the drumsticks. And the drumsticks are just glued in.
That's great.
Makes the handle. And now you can be called the little drummer boy.
Okay.
Poor beauty.
Yeah, there you go.
I laid out the fluting on my lathe, and then carved it with a reciprocating carver. This is ash, which is stained again with the leather dye. And it's got some decoration on the top where I burned it a la our last people that were demonstrating. That's pretty good.
Very nice.
And I used a little bit of sprinkles to get a little snow effect on it.
This is some more of that free wood, and all I did was cut a few segments and glue them together, made a solid bottom for it, turned the inside, ended up with that with a polyurethane finish.
Hollow forms, and I'm going to attribute this one to a couple of guys in this class. The first one is to Eric Stakowitz. Eric, I don't know if you guys remember, but probably about a year ago, Eric had done the burning on the ash, and I really liked that, so I made a ash hollow form, and then I gently burned it to get the lines on it. So that's just the natural grain of the ash to embellish that. And then the lid I turned, and then I'm gonna have to give Bettler this credit. Dave, who I respect quite a bit, tree branches. So I took some tree branches for the handle, and then I put a copper nail in it, and then I wrapped it with wax string to hold the sticks together. So then you hear that, and then just turn it. There you go.
Okay, this is a little cherry box. A lot of you know me, I hate turning on a lathe. I rather ornamental turn set. It's a little box made out of cherry. I had some tight grain cherry, and it wouldn't be mine unless I did some embellishment with a rose engine. And it has a blackwood finial. I've been working on finials, and it's finished with walnut oil. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Thank you.
A music box I turned with maple and walnut and put a movement in it. I usually put clear glass in, or clear acrylic, but I ran out of clear and I put this smoke glass in there. You can't see the movement. I punch that out and put a clear movement in. It needs to be completed. So that's it, and it works.
I'll be darned. Okay, a lot of you have seen me do these, and I thought, well, you know, it'll be a nice little exchange thing. One piece of wood, it's let's see, the center of this tree is clear over here. So there's no pith in it. This isn't natural bark. I turn the box, leave the outside fairly square, carve it with a little chainsaw wheel on a Merlin carver, wood burn it, and then add some color in there for, in this case, a little bit of green like moss on the tree.
You recognize him?